Welcome everybody to another episode of The Discarded Compass. I'm sorry that I wasn't around for a while. I must have lost direction somewhere along the line. So yeah, welcome back. And who we have tonight for you is Walter Driscoll from US. And Walter's a non-Dual speaker as such. And welcome, Walter. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, John. Good to be here.
Great. And great to have you on the show. I've seen you doing various shows, YouTube shows. Dawn Garland, I think you were on a show with her, yeah.
Yeah, we do a thing now. It's once a month called Not Just This, where we take questions and yeah, we share a little bit about non-duality at the beginning, and then we take questions from the audience, and it's fun. Yeah, good time.
Yeah, it's fun, and it can be serious too, but we can get into that later. But
yeah, sure.
It's the oldest question in the universe, in the history of whatever. How did I get here? Who am I? What happened? It's just, isn't it, really? Everything else is relative, I suppose, you know. How did you land upon this malarkey?
Upon
non-duality.
Like the message itself. How did I land upon it? Well, I'd say it was somebody suggested I read I Am That.
Oh, Nisargadatta.
Nisargadatta Maharaj. So yeah, I see his picture back there.
Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, yeah.
That's right. So I started with that, and then read all his other books and other people who were, you know, like 6 degrees of separation. I would just find anybody connected to him in some fashion, Ramesh Balsekar and Sailor Bob, and then anybody that was inspired or influenced by those guys, and just, you know, so it started with Maharaj, and I sort of read up from there.
Walter, was it the stumbling upon this message, or did usually suffering drives people into trying to find out what's the nature of existence and such? An existential crisis happens. What drove you to the search?
What drove me? Sorry. It's a good question. So, you know, there's a saying, pain is the touchstone of spiritual growth. And I'd say it did drive me, because the person that recommended that was a sponsor, and so I was in AA at the time. And I was just looking for, always wanting to go deeper, you know, and imagining there was a deeper. And I knew there was a deeper truth. There was a higher thing to learn. And, you know, because it was never good enough. Whatever teaching I was working with was, you know, I always knew there was and then I saw books, the ultimate understanding, the final truth, this, you know, and so wanting to go deeper, because I guess the suffering was that this is never enough. You know, what wasn't good enough. There was something better out there than this, you know, and that was the suffering, that there was always somewhere else to get to, somewhere better, somewhere different, a better understanding, a higher understanding. I was just talking to someone, they talked about pure awareness, you know, so now there's pure awareness. It's not just awareness, there's a pure awareness. And anyway, so that was the suffering for me. And so I was always inquiring about if I heard somebody that I thought had something that I didn't, knew something in terms of spirituality or achievement of peace and happiness and contentment, bliss, you know, all these things I was looking for. So at that time, it was my understanding that, if I get what's in I Am That, if I understand what Nisargadatta is saying, then I can have this permanent bliss, you know, this peace that passes all understanding. So that's what drove that search, and like getting into all those books and all that.
You mentioned AA 12-step program, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's based on finding a higher power. And I think in one of their books it says the primary problem for the addict alcoholic is a false, it says in that book, a false self-center. So from the off, they're saying it's false. Am I correct?
I'm not sure of that quote exactly.
Well, it's in the big book, I think, a big book, I think I read it. It's the self-center anyway is the primary culprit.
Well, it says selfishness,
Yeah.
self-centeredness, that we think is the problem.
Yeah.
And we had to find a power greater than ourselves, you know.
So talk a bit about that, Walter. What do you think of that? You must have, do you think the message wasn't given right in the 12-step program?
Well, the message in the 12, well, the message of the 12-step program, and in full disclosure, I'm not a member of AA or anything. That was just a part of my story. But the 12 steps says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we carried this message to other alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. So the goal was to have that spiritual awakening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did the steps, you know, again, this is chasing that carrot of the spiritual awakening. And when I saw that, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, so I figured I do the steps, I have the awakening. And so the awakening was to see that, well, there's a line that says our problems are of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an example of self-will run riot. You know, like we put these things in motion. I saw this when I did my 4th step and read my 5th step, is that I set up these circumstances. I had these expectations. You know, an expectation is like a premeditated resentment. You know, I'm expecting this interview to go a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, I want John to behave a certain way, and I expect and I want, and when it falls short of that, then I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
See, so that's why they talk a lot about acceptance and things like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm never happy with what is. It's never good enough. You know, just this. Well, it says now, and I'm trying to remember the book. It's been so long, but irritable discontent. It talks about until we can get the ease and comfort that comes by taking a few drinks.
I mean, that you could say that applies to anybody in the world, really. Ease and comfort, that applies to buying yourself a new car or changing a relationship. I mean, or moving country or whatever, right? Yeah. It's temporary, isn't it?
But what is temporary? Oh, the ease and comfort. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But as you say, it's extreme will for the addict, alcoholic. Extreme will run riot, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, go on. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So in that process that I went through, you look at where was I selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and afraid. And I could see how fear set a lot of things in motion. I'm afraid I'm not going to get what I want. I'm afraid I'm going to lose what I have. I'm afraid of other people's opinions, you know, and these things would drive me, you know. So I'm afraid of your opinion of me. So I'm going to behave a certain way so that you'll like me. But see, that whole process is obviously setting myself up.
Yeah. People pleasing.
Yeah, because then you're going to like this version of me that I presented to you, you know, which isn't even me. It's just,
yeah.
It's all convoluted, but yeah. Anyway,
so yeah. So okay. So you're chasing the spiritual awakening, right? And you're looking at various teachings through Nisargadatta Maharaj and Sera Bob and that ilk. Which route did you take there, and what really resonated in that start of that search?
what resonated in the starless search. Well, I guess at first, to see that there's no ultimate reality, that everything is this relative perception. So I'm trying to think now what dawned on me first. Like there's no me, there's no because there's like my idea of myself, there's your idea of me, there's other people's idea of me, and which one is it? Even my own understanding of myself is not accurate, and neither is you. So there is really no definitive me. There's only interpretations or impressions of me, and there's no solidity, there's no actuality to anything. Everything is interpretation, and just a thought about it. It's like the word is not the thing, the map is not the territory. So no matter what you think about something, it's never it. So I guess that brought me out of my contracted world a little bit, that I thought I understood what things were. I thought I understood what a table was. Even the big book says, the prosaic steel girder is a mass of electrons whirling around at incredible speeds. So it's not a solid thing. If you look at it, as it says, with an electron microscope, you see there's a lot more than meets the eye. So,
and even scientists have the double slit experiment. When they observe something, it changes into a wave or a particle. I forget which one. It changed into a wave, I think. Yeah, but it's not.
That's right. Yeah, the observer is the observed.
Yeah, when it's not observed, it behaves a different way. So the observer, which is what we are, changes reality.
Yes.
That's quite something, isn't it?
Yeah, just by the looking at it affects it. So you can't objectively look at anything. Yeah, it's amazing to think about that, because there's no separation. There's no way you can stand apart from all that is to describe it.
There's no way in and no way out. I mean, it's the same sort of viewing, isn't it? There's no one in and no one out. I mean, you can't get away from this.
Right.
Is there going back to how you stumbled up your awakening, could you tell us a bit about your initial awakening as such?
Well, the awakening,
the aha moment.
Oh, the aha moment. Okay. So, yeah, so I would say there must be different, I don't know, interpretations of what spiritual awakening or spiritual experience is. But the one I would say that sort of ended the seeking was just sitting there and just having coffee and just ruminating thoughts like always. And then there was a kind of I don't know, a falling away, or the bottom dropped out, and it was just seeing that everything was this one outpouring, and there was no one in here doing anything. There was no separate individual, independent self with volition. That it was one outpouring. So whatever I was doing, whatever thoughts that were happening here, and all the other bodies, let's say, all the other people, there was no one in there either, and animals, and even the walls, every apparent thing, and there are no separate things. It was just seen as just one appearance, one, like I said, I was talking earlier about like a painting. You can have one big beautiful painting with all these different objects, birds and trees and people, but it's one painting, and it's made of the same paint. I mean, it might be different colors. This one has more blue, that one has more green, but it's the same substance. It's the same one. It's the same painting. There's no separation, and there's no painter either. So it's just all this one big, beautiful outpouring from nothing, happening to no one, by no one. So that was it. And that's the message. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's a me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a me to fall away. I guess if you define the me as a bundle of concepts and ideas about this thing that, in me and my life. And then once that kind of falls away, I think that's what people are talking about by the me fell away. But the me is just a belief that there is something called a me or a self or that there is an individual. But that's what was seen, and there's no knowing of like where that comes from, or that there is some kind of source, or that there's any kind of meaning or purpose to any of it. And there's no knowing of that it's about anything, that there's a how or a why or any of those things. It was just, this is it. And, as you've heard, and yeah, it was just this. And there was nothing deeper than that to be explained. That it was just sourceless beingness, aliveness, but no one being alive, but just there's this apparent life that seems to be happening. Yeah, and it didn't leave that. And the result wasn't that there was some enlightened person at the end of this, that it was just seeing that there's no separation. There's no enlightenment. There's no difference between this apparent person and any other apparent person. And there's nothing higher or better to see this than not to see this. And that was the beauty that ended the seeking, because like I said, I was always searching for a better feeling, a more blissful feeling. But whatever feelings happen is this whole, complete, perfect expression. And it's not being expressed through me. There isn't a me. This is the expression. The so-called me is the expression. This body is the expression. These words are the expression. And it's not like a mantra or an understanding where I see that everything is perfect, whole, and complete. Therefore, I'm comforted by that. It's just, that's the way it is. Even in my discomfort, that's whole, complete, and perfect. And there isn't a teaching or a practice that I can get into that will get me out of that or beyond that or into something deeper than that. It's always just this, and there is no just this, but it's just to say that this air, these cars going by, these words, this interaction with you, you're blinking, you're listening, my talking, it's like, it's all this, it's all perfect. It's all the painting that, let's just say, the mystery this mystery expressing something, I don't know. It's beyond words. Like they say, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. It's so as other people who talk about this have said, like, nothing I say is the truth, because it's just a concept of, this becomes a concept. If you grab onto it and you think, I can get this. Or like when I was first reading Nisargadatta, it was all conceptual, and I thought there was something to get and somebody to get it. So that, he talks about bliss, he talks about a lot of things in that book, but there's no one that ever got what Nisargadatta Maharaj was talking about.
Can never get, like, there's no trophy at the end, is there? There's no prize, is there? There's nothing to be gained, more lost. Nisargadatta is more like nitty, wasn't he? It's the approach to nitty, like
nitty, not this, not that. I mean, yeah, it's been said that it's hidden by already being everything. So if there's, the prize is everything, the treasure is everything. This is the treasure, life itself. It's, I think Tony said something about there's nothing to be found in life. This is the treasure. This is what you're looking for. Another quote, what's looking is what you're looking for. It's already, that the beauty of this message is it's always already. It's never not been. So it's in the looking. It's in the searching. And then you realize there is no finding. So it's that too, but that's all within the dream. I mean, there's nothing other than this. So there's no transcending this. There's no waking up from the dream, or waking up to the dream. I guess waking up to the dream is realizing it's all a dream, but that is still within the dream. So meaning it's always this, and you can't get out of it. You can't get into it. There's no one to get in or out of it. It's always all this.
I can imagine people listening, they have so many questions, and it's a radical message, because the systematic movement is based on history and the future. Advertising is based on it. Everything is based on history, the future. You'll be happy when you buy a new car from us. You're going to be happy, and you get this life plan. You're going to be more secure. And there's no such thing as fulfillment in anything as such. There's fleeting moments, and we all try to appease ourselves in various different ways with various different pursuits. Some more covert than others. Some more PC than others. Some really. Some, like, the ways we conceal our discontent can be camouflaged so very, very, very well. I think that's just my own opinion on things. You might see someone that talks so well and looks so well and their life runs so well, and you think they've got it together. They must have it together, but it's not so. But, to say, if you had a boss, and if I go into my boss, right, and I say, look, there's no one here, Jack, so stop talking to me like you do, I mean, and my boss says, well, if there's no one there, your wages aren't there at the end of the week either.
Yeah.
I mean, this can cause so many problems for people. Like, look, we know it's a dream as such. And even, look, this isn't like a message that's just a whimsical message. There's nobody there. The bloody scientists can't figure out what it's all about either. Okay, folks? They can't find the God particle, and that's a fact. the two things hit each other, two particles hit each other or something, and light goes off and the whole thing starts again in a flash of an instant. It can't be captured. So that's it. Yeah. But the message means something. Just because it's non-duality, the search for enlightenment is there. In Buddhism, the whole lot points to emptiness as form, form is emptiness. The scientists look at it in different ways, saying there's a particle. There isn't a particle when it's looked at. It's not there. It's there when it's looked at, and it isn't if we don't look at it, but we can never know because we can't look at it when we're not there. So this goes on and on and on. And there are even mathematical theories that have actually proved the theory of, I think, is it eternity? Some form of that, that proved the existence of everything is just eternal. So, the non-dual message can be very packaged into a bit of a lucky bag thing, and a whimsical notion. But, it does hold, I think, the core message of a lot of traditions and stuff like that. So life goes on for you, Walter, okay? You were a certain way, you were looking for hope and inspiration and solace and happiness in other things, even spiritual searches. Then something happened. Now it's different. What's different for you? Like, what would you say to that employee and that boss,
Okay. What's different? I mean, there's really nothing different other than the seeking is this type of seeking, I guess there's always some type of seeking, but that idea that there is a level of understanding or a spiritual awakening or an enlightenment that I can escape this. I was looking for, someone else said the escape hatch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was looking to experience my own absence.
Yeah.
Because being a person is painful. And so I was looking to get out of that. Like, I don't know, to be a non-person. I don't, but you're never going to experience your own absence,
It's just
there's
so
just
funny. Yeah.
There's just never been anyone here in the first place. So yeah, it's just so simple in that way that okay, it's just beingness. It's just whatever happens. It's no getting this wrong. There's no getting it right. It's just it's always already. So whatever is happening is what's happening. It's not even what's supposed to be happening or what's meant to happen, because there is no one that can say this is what's supposed to be happening or this is what's meant to happen. It's just what seems to be happening.
But when you say it seems
perfect
to be happening, it's like it seems to be happening. The mind always goes to it seems to be happening for someone. And when you say this is just what's happening, there's like a time frame of 4 or 5 seconds where you say it. There's like a time frame of 4 or 5 seconds where it's happening, and there's always mind in that, obviously I have no idea what I said about 5 minutes ago, really, so it's always sort of like 2 or 3 seconds, it's what's happening. There's always a moment of 2 or 3 seconds or something. I don't know, maybe 6 seconds. But there's always like a time. But what you're talking about is that there's no time. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it seems that time is a concept, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm not an expert on that kind of stuff. And, but it seems like, yeah, time is without a thought, without anything arising here, there is no time. In other words, without my interpretation and thoughts and concepts and beliefs, nothing is. Nothing is apart from mind, apart from thought. Including time.
So how does someone approach this? Is the approach part of it as well? I mean, why carry the message then?
Well, why carry the message? I don't know. I don't know. It just seems what's happening. Like, I just well, like anything else, like my story about AA is just what happened. I fell into it and, did the steps and thought I was on some path somewhere, and then discovered non-duality. And now I'm talking about that, but I used to talk about something else. And maybe in the apparent future, I'll be onto something else. Who knows? But right now, I seem to be interviewing people. Now I'm being interviewed and I have discussions, and it's just what's happening. But there's no why. I mean, I'm not trying to accomplish anything or help anybody or anything like that. Yeah, I had that. Sorry, go ahead.
When non-dual speakers talk, it's like they're giving a message. Why can't you get the fact? It's like it says, why can't you get the fact there's no one there? That's like, get this, that there's no one there.
Oh, okay. Get this, that there's no one there. Yeah, I've seen pointers pointing out instructions that try to help people to see that, like I remember a gentleman was working with me and he's like, if I cut off your arms, will you still be you? And I say, yes. If I cut off your legs, will you still be you? Yes. If I give you a heart transplant, lung transplant, and or a frontal lobotomy, like when, what is the you? What is this identity?
But there's no advantage for the unenlightened person or the so-called enlightened person. There's no advantage for either person, either construct.
Advantage?
There's no ultimate advantage for any one of the two. The unenlightened one or the enlightened one, the one that thinks he's enlightened or not enlightened or not there, or the person that thinks they're there. There's no ultimate advantage for either one of them, is there?
Well, I don't think there's anyone that thinks they're there, because there isn't anyone. So there's just whatever's happening. So if there's in other words, so there's no ghost in the machine. There's no one responsible for thinking they're there, and there's no one responsible for thinking they're not there. One's not better than the other. One's not higher than the other. Like I said, they're both within the dream of I am, or within the dream of apparent separation. But there's no one here that's kind of seeing something bigger than anyone else, or I can see outside the dream, or I've escaped any, it's just like you've heard the wave in the ocean. It's like we're all waves in the ocean, and there's no enlightened waves. There's no one wave that's more important or knows something that the other waves don't.
So look, what if the wife comes home, okay, and says, listen, John, you're sitting on a rock in the garden all day and there's nothing happening, you're telling me. And could you not get your shit together? Like, I mean, I mean, well, there's that too, isn't there?
Yeah. See, it's not an understanding, and it's not a philosophy, and it's not something that can be applied. Maybe you've heard the term applied non-duality.
Okay, what is that? No, I haven't.
Well, it's something like what you're saying. There's a a person that hears there's no one here. And the message is not there's nothing you can do or there's nothing to do. That's sometimes misheard. It's just that there is no one to do anything, but doing apparently happens. So if someone hears, for whatever reason, hears there's no one and there's nothing to do, then they just sit there and they're not going to work, and their spouse or their boss or whoever, whatever the circumstances, is getting annoyed with them. That's what's happening. But that's not what non-duality is. It's not to become inactive. It's not, because it's hard to explain, but if there's a person that
this is so crucial to the message, I think it really, this paradoxical thing, it's really interesting as well.
Well, the whole nothing to do is just talking about there's nothing you can do to get this. There's nothing you can do to get closer to this. There isn't a you. All there is this. So if all there is this, and the going to work, the not going to work, even the applied non-duality is nothing wrong with that, because that's also this. But I'm certainly not telling anyone to quit their jobs or to
get fired.
I mean, I said it in the last video I made. I said there's no responsibility, but there is accountability. So like, I'm not responsible because there is no me. I'm not the author of my actions. I'm not the author of my thoughts, but there is a society in place where if I decide to do something bad, then I'm probably going to go to jail and I will be held accountable. So it's not an excuse for bad behavior.
Yeah. So then you've got 100% accountability, I think. Yeah. That's even worse for this person. Yeah. You're 100% accountable then. And it feels that way. It feels right for the guy that won't go to work and the boss is ringing him up saying, "Look, John, if you don't get off the rock, I'm firing you." Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're accountable. What? You lost your bloody job? Yeah. There's a lot of that. I suppose it's called maybe spiritual bypassing. So has life got different as such, as in Walter pre awakening and after waking? I mean, does the thought process go on, and is it easier? Is life easier? Is there a sense of ease?
Yes, I'd say so. I'd say so, but I don't really think that the message has anything to do with that. That there's you'll have a better life. Like I said, it's just better because that sort of angst that I projected onto Nisargadatta or whoever, the so-called guru or non-duality speaker, that they had this thing that I was chasing after that I described earlier. And it's just not the case. It's just, so where's the ease and comfort come from? I guess it's just this, that this is perfect, imperfectly perfect. It's beautiful. But, I certainly have sadness and all the other stuff and struggles and problems in relationships and frustration at work and all the same. And so does everyone else, but it's not my frustration. There's no one here being frustrated. Where would I get frustration? Where would I find that? Where would I generate that? How could I manifest that? It's just what's happening. It's just what's arising. I'm not creating it. I'm not getting rid of it. It's just what's arising, and then it falls away. All this stuff just comes up and it goes off, and then something else comes up and that goes off. It's just rising and falling of this apparent existence and these apparent thoughts and these feelings, and they're temporary, but yeah, I've gone into it deep, and the last time I had sort of I don't know, it was anxiety or whatever, I just said, I'm just going to let this eat me up. I'm not going to run from it, And I was just being with it. And then it went away. And that's what it does, So, but it's not me. And so maybe there's some peace that comes with that as well, that, I'm not responsible for its being there, or for getting rid of it. Life is living itself. Grass grows by itself. I breathe, my lungs are breathing. My eyes are blinking. My mind is thinking. My arms are moving. There's just no one doing any of this.
So nothing.
And I sound like a broken record, but if there's any peace, but I don't want to put it out there like this is an understanding that if you get this, then you can have peace because you have this understanding. It just is. So the depression just is. But there is no depression. Like I said, nothing is apart from mind. So,
I know, but if someone's depressed and having a hard time of it, I mean,
right, then it is because they believe it is.
Yeah.
And they're, yeah.
No, you're mistaken. There's no depression.
No, I would never say that to anyone. I'm just saying, apart from thought, there's no depression. Apart from mind, nothing is. So, we give everything all the meaning it has. We give, the absolute and the relative are not two. Right? So is this table real and solid? Yes, it is. It appears to be, seems to be. But is it? No. But both are true. It's the yes and. You see? Like, John is separate from Walter. That seems to be true. That you're over there in Ireland, I'm here in the US.
Yeah, I mean,
that seems to be real. But there isn't a separate John and a separate Walter, and in a place called Ireland, in a place called United States.
They've even done that in the experiment. They've taken a part of a molecule of something, and they've put it in New York and the other part in Europe. And when the part in Europe changes, if they manipulate the part of the molecule, whatever it is, proton or something, I'm not a scientist, so probably folks, you probably shoot me down, leave comments in the section below and let me know where I've gone wrong as describing this. But basically, when that particle changes in Europe, it instantly changes in New York exactly at the same time. That's true. That's kind of like along the lines what you're saying. Everything's connected, or just is. It's
I wouldn't even say everything is connected.
Would you say it's energy? It's an energy thing. Energy sounds right.
Energy is just another word. The word is not the thing. I mean, energy, what is energy?
Life. I mean, they don't know what they can't. I mean, like you say about the whirling proton thing that you described before, they still don't know what it is. Energy is electricity is energy, and they still don't know what causes the beam to be there. Scientists can't find anything. They still don't know what electricity is. So is everything just apparent energy appearing?
I mean, I don't know about energy and I don't know about the science. I mean, that's the thing too. It's like, if the so-called contracted energy, let me put it this way, like in my story, I say the bottom fell out and then it was just obvious that everything was this one expression, this one outpouring. That then doesn't make me some kind of expert in psychology and science. And like, that's why I've struggled with some of your questions. Cause like even the AA, I was trying to like remember what I learned and like, botched a few of those concepts. But so there's no one here that like has a deeper insight into life and understanding and things like that. There's just no one here, and there never was. So, I mean, that's the message to me. Is there's just no one here and there's no one there, but there seems to be separate people interacting. But well, like I had a conversation with someone, they said that the free will debate is boring, and I agree, it can be boring, but why does it take place within non-duality? Because if you can see that there's no free will, no volition, no independent sort of autonomous entity anywhere, then the idea that there is someone, that there's a person. I mean, what would a person be if you know what I mean? Like if they didn't have free will, I would think that's the whole definition of a person is as an autonomous individual. So if that's seen through, that no action is my action, no words are my words, no thoughts are my thoughts. It's just what seems to be happening here to this body or through this body. I mean, so I can see why talking about free will or volition or authorship is a part of the conversation. Because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just beautiful to see that wow, these words are being spoken by no one. This is no one speaking with no one and listening to no one. And I mean, and that sounds like empty and kind of hollow and like maybe, so where's the beauty? The beauty is that, well, how is all this seemingly happening? To me, anyway, that's where the awe and wonder is. It's like, how am I, I mean, I'm not doing it, but how is this conversation taking place? And what's aware of this conversation? And why are these words coming out? I have no idea. There's beauty, there's color, there's a symphony going on all the time. And even the sadness and the variety of life and the ups and downs and everything that makes it have all this range of feeling and emotion and, and things are interesting or things are boring and the polarities. But I mean, isn't that fascinating that no one's doing any of that? There's no source for any of that. And I don't even know that there's no source. Just seems that way.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but it's just mind-boggling. So and beautiful. And if you could just sit in that, spring comes and the grass grows by itself. There isn't a mother nature growing the grass. It just,
Yeah, I remember I was cutting the grass one day and it goes, no, the grass is cut. I said, no, it isn't. It's never actually cut, because as soon as it's cut, it starts growing. It's continuously growing. You know, our perceptions, what we think, we never think into things, do we, much, you know?
like, first of all, when, like, right at, like, there was, after that experience, it was like, wow, like I was sort of like, you know, walking around sort of like, and that's settled down. But at first I'd be like, you know, on a crowded bus and I'd be like, there's nobody on this bus. There's no one driving this bus. There's no one riding the bus. There's no one going to work. But there are all these bodies here, you know, and there's all this apparent movement and apparent action. So, I mean, it was endlessly fascinating, but to no one, you know, and I don't know where this fascination, you know, arose from. Anyway, I just think that's pretty cool. So it's just so it doesn't sound like an empty void, like a completely
See,
kind of dry message, you know.
Yeah. When people say, you know, there's nothing here, straight away we have a mental idea of nothing. That's not what this is about. It's more like no thing. Like, even as you say, words are useless when you try to put them on this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have some like deep understanding of anything. It's just like when say nothing is, nothing happens. So if I pour myself a cup of coffee, in one sense, I poured myself a cup of coffee. In another sense, nothing ever happened because I didn't do that. It's just what seemed to happen.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a bit like cutting the grass as well. I mean, there's something in this because there's that time frame of 6 or 5 seconds again, and it's like I'm pouring a cup of coffee, but when does it start and end? You can't actually tie a split second onto when it starts and ends. I might be sounding like totally bonkers here, but there is no start and finish in the pouring of the coffee, is there? If you look for it, so that's no start and finish in the idea of a person either, is there? And it's kind of the same thing.
well, I don't really know. What do you mean by start or finish?
Well, when did the person begin? When did the person end? When did the pouring of the coffee begin? When did it end? You can't actually totally discern that. It's just a theory I have. It doesn't make much sense, but
Well, it just clicks with me that that there's no one pouring coffee because pouring, you know, it's like pouring coffee is happening. But I never decided to do it. I'm not doing it. Like this and the coffee pot are all the same appearance, appearing as separate, appearing as a person holding a pot, pouring something called coffee into a cup. It's all one appearance, you know, coming from no thing, appearing to an appearance. That's all within the dream of separation. But there isn't a separate person from the coffee pot. And it's same with the painting. Back to the painting. If there's a person pouring coffee in a painting, it's all the painting. It's all made of paint. You know?
it's just ridiculous, isn't it? Really.
But there's no individual anywhere. And it's the same with animals. That's why this isn't like something to brag about. I mean, the rats in the dumpster behind my apartment, you know, there's no one there either. There's no rat. So, you know what I mean? It's like if a person's being held up on a pedestal because they know that there's no one there, it's like, well, the rat, there is no rat to know that it's not there. And there's no so-called Tony Parsons or Nisargadatta Maharaj. There's no Papaji. There's no any of these people. It's just what's appearing is those words are coming out, but Tony Parsons never spoke those words. They aren't his ideas that are being shared. These aren't mine. So there aren't any original thoughts.
There aren't any original thoughts. Where do they come from? I mean,
it's a good question. Yeah, I don't know where they come from. I don't know where thoughts come from. I don't know where feelings come from.
I mean, we're so sure they're my thoughts, aren't we? We're so damn sure. I mean, listen, people kill over thoughts being theirs. They kill.
What is the my?
So, they say they're my thoughts of this is my country and you're overstepping my boundaries and I think this is my country, so get out or I'll blow you up. I mean, this goes on, man. This is serious stuff. So if this belief is so true, like you say, like you've just said, what's been discussed? Where are the thoughts coming from? Whose thoughts are they really? I mean, there should be no doubt, that thoughts belong to the person.
Yeah, just who would take ownership of the thoughts? I mean, there's just nothing there to claim anything. Like people sometimes will say, are you afraid that the me will come back? Something like that. I'll say, well, who would it come back for? It's the same as me asking, whose thoughts are these? There's just no one here to have a me, to have a thought, to take an action.
Straight away, I have thoughts of a world leader. I wish he was in the position you are in.
World leader.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of world leaders causing a lot of trouble in the world. That if they were in the position you are as such, the world would be a lot more peaceful. And then again, is there a, yeah, I mean, this message is fairly radical. It's fairly new. It hasn't been around for long. I mean, if there was people that had this message before, I mean, they're probably been hung or put on the cross. So maybe we can share this a bit more freely now. I mean, there's nothing radical about it in a way, nothing violent about it, is there? Quite a simple message in a way. You think?
Yeah. It's I mean, there's no world leader. They're not responsible for their words or actions, but like I said, they can be accountable.
Accountable, yeah.
But again, like whoever you want to use, Donald Trump or somebody, that it's just he didn't do any of those things. He didn't say any of those things. They seem to be happening through that body that we call Donald Trump. But there's no one in there. You know what I mean? It's just another appearance. It's just another appearance, appearing to speak words and take actions and run well, not anymore, but I just used him because he might be one of the most polarizing, but
Yeah, it brings to mind, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Yeah. Deal with life beforehand, deal with life afterwards. Nothing changes in the way.
Yeah, nothing changes. And like they say about the mountains, mountains become mountains again. So that's like, say, before so-called enlightenment, mountains are mountains. Then mountains are no longer mountains. So you see through that there's no separation. There's not a separate mountain from me. It's all an appearance, the mountain, just like the coffee pot, So mountains are mountains. But then mountains become mountains again. So like, yeah, John Lynch is over there, I'm over here, and it's like, but I'm not like, I'm not in that sort of there's no John Lynch, I don't need to do that. I don't need to say that, it's just sort of both and. There's no separation, but there appears to be. There's no mountain, but there appears to be.
Yeah. So what to do?
And so it's a real dream. It's a real appearance.
I like the fact that it's a real dream. That's quite a good one. Yeah, it's a real dream. Yeah, it's besides, it's just a dream. But this is a real dream. Yeah. I mean, you can't really argue with that, can you?
Well, it's like you said, you don't want to tell someone that's depressed that there's no depression.
Yeah.
Because if it's true for them, if it's being experienced in their relative, personal, apparent experience of life, then to deny that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So to deny the illusion, to deny the mountain, to deny the depression, to deny any of the appearances is not it. It's not the message. It's not a denial. I'd say things, can tend to be more full on when this is seen. Because there's not that resistance.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, when I was like, I'll just let it eat me up. There wasn't a thought about I shouldn't. It was just like, just go into it. This is what seems to be happening. So let's do it. Not that I had a choice in the matter, but there's no running from it. So yeah, I would never tell anybody that. I don't think that's what this is about at all.
Yeah, because then you're coming from a place of like, really, like it just doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even combine into the non-dual message, does it? For that to be said, or it's like you really got someone saying, there's nothing happening,
Right.
Like someone screaming, I don't exist. It's like absolute crazy. Like, yeah. So
yeah, that gets kind of crazy. Yeah, I don't exist.
That's like, it's like, but what does so what's your message, Walter? You do talks and stuff, or what's Walter's message in a nutshell? Let us all have it.
Oh, well, I don't have a message.
Or pointer, or what would you say would be your?
I think maybe a lot of it I've said already is because I really think that this message is pretty simple. That there is no separate existence. There's no individual with free will and choice. There's no, that to me, it's that there is no one in this body running my life. There is no my life. There is just this apparent life. And it seems to be being lived by separate people. But there aren't separate people. There's just this one outpouring, And it's just like these different colors being painted and these different stories happening, but they're not happening to anybody. They're not anyone's stories. There's no ownership of that. So there's the message of not to. Yeah, so there's no two-ness in anything I'm saying. And there's not even a oneness, really.
It's not one. One implies two. Yeah.
It's just the cars going by. It's just these words coming out of my mouth. It's just this interaction, John and Walter. It's the water bottle, it's all of it. And really, like I said, and I hope this comes across, that there really is no one here that understands anything or has a deeper, like a deep message to share. It's really not that. Maybe it's profound, I don't know, but it's just that. And I can't tell you anything because there's no one to stand apart from all that is to describe it. This is a dream character, Walter. So the dream, it's like you're in the dream asking another character in the dream to tell you what's the dream all about, or but they can't get out of the dream to really give you any deep, meaningful. That's why it's just this, man. Like, meaning and purpose is relative, but the relative and the absolute are not separate. So if in the dream something is happening and you're all wrapped up in it, and it's making you angry, it's making you scared, it's making you whatever, like I said, it's a real dream, and all that is valid, all that is real, all that is true, but it's also just a dream. It's also an illusion. So I guess that's the message, or at least, my sharing of it is that. And I guess I'll just say, I like to harp on that there's no falling away of a me, that there is no enlightenment, that there is no higher truth, and that understanding this is not better than not understanding this, and there is no one to understand this, because somehow I got the impression that the person at the front of the room had something that everyone in the back of the room had to get. And if there's anything I can do to dispel that,
it's a setup.
I would love to, remove that carrot, and just it's always already
the altar. Yeah.
Exactly. It's the great equalizer. There's no authority when it comes to this. There's no one, like I said, that's out of this dream that can tell you what the meaning of the dream is. Tony Parsons is another dream character. Walter Driscoll is another dream character. John Lynch. So, I think Course in Miracles says there's no hierarchy in illusions, which I love, because if it's all an illusion, how could one illusion be higher, better, more something than something else? It's totally, absolutely, what's the word? Balance, equilibrium. I don't know. There's nowhere to get to. There's no one to get there, and it's just always already happening, or not happening.
All things or all people are equal, but you have to have equality before it. But there's inequality. you have to have inequality before there's pure.
Well, there's no separate people, so the idea of everyone being equal is
Well, there has to be
a moot.
inequality first. It's like there's evil, there has to be good. If there's good, there has to be evil. You could just can't have one by itself. That was never anything else to oppose it. There have to be opposing forces. One implies two. Equality implies inequality. We see that happening in the world with everything that's going on. Walter, it's been absolute nothing listening to you.
Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, John. I really enjoy your podcast, The Discarded Compass. It's been great. I've been checking out your stuff.
Thanks
and
so
enjoying it very much. And it was an honor that you got in touch with me.
Thanks, Walter. And your YouTube channel is Walter Driscoll Non Duality, and his email, folks. Will I tell you, folks, your email? Yeah.
Oh, please do. Yes.
Contact Walter at Walter Driscoll. That's Walter Driscoll, DRISCOLL, nonduality@gmail.com. That's Walter Driscoll, nonduality@gmail.com. And do you do one-on-ones or meetings and such?
I'd be willing to do one-to-one. I've only done one-to-one because I don't advertise that, but somebody reached out and asked if I would do one. So I did one. And I had, for that kind of thing, I probably would ask for a little donation of some kind, sliding scale. I never set an amount for anything, to like an hour or something. But other than that, people sometimes email me with suggestions for, I don't know if they do this with you as well, but they'd like me to interview somebody. So I just say, if you're going to do that, just provide me with the person's information, especially like an email address, because it's great to just give me a list of names, but then I got to try to track them down.
Yeah.
So if the person really wants me to speak with somebody or themselves even, just give me the information so I don't have to do a lot of digging, so that's helpful. And maybe share a video with me or something like that. But I'm open to correspondence. That's about it. If people want to check out my YouTube channel, there's tons of interviews on there with a lot of the same people you've spoken with. So it's very similar what we're doing.
Walter, thanks so much. And listen, there's Walter, folks, is half Irish, so he's going to have to get on over here to Cork, his native county, and is it? Yeah, isn't that right?
Yes, I will. I definitely will. It's on my list of places to visit for sure.
We look forward to that.
Me too.
Walter, thanks so much, and take care until we talk again. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Take care.